This is Linus Lopez. We are talking in the background of the PLDC 2019 in Rotterdam. We're going to discuss light and the city. It's Riccardo Marini and Rayane Belkadi. And we just had a most interesting presentation from you, Riccardo, on smart cities. A lot of them coming up these days. It is quite clear that cities is the way people are moving in the near future. What exactly is that smart city all about?
Oh goodness, what is a smart city? A smart city is a city where smart people want to live. This is why I have an issue with the notion of the master plan or this kind of thing, is that I'm not God. They're just a component of a way of thinking. But it's very easy to slip into the mistake of thinking, I love what they do so much, I want the world to be shaped by that. And then, you know, there's lots of films, there's lots of books that are written about dystopian futures. A dystopian future is one which is perfect for somebody. But then there are the other people, even if it's 1% of the population that don't agree with it, I think there's something wrong with that.
Ren, what has been your experience with light, the way it has been used traditionally in cities, and over the last few years, what you have seen in your own developments in Morocco and Algeria?
When we go back at the first stages, we were talking only about natural light. No artificial lighting. So people had to find solutions for that and had to be smart enough to provide either security, orientation, and a good place to live. So many aspects had to be taken into account to provide good solutions for people, and in difficult situations which are about geography and how harsh is living in Northern Africa and other Arab countries. Let's talk about North Africa as a region. Let's say it's a common urban scheme for all the countries, as a traditional manner of speaking. So the urban scheme was first designed with a core, and then the life is around the core as a circular scheme, which is related to religion, of course, but this is also related before religion of for culture, for Arab culture, before Islam even. So this kind of scheme provided narrow streets, wider streets, and then very wide streets for principal activities, to go to market, to go outside the city also. So you have different access, and this for security and orientation, but also for shield and for
protection from direct sunlight.
Direct sunlight, because this is obviously the main problem for us, but not a problem maybe for other countries. So this was an approach that related to light and applied on the urbanism and architecture.
So you would get a little bit of filtered, sort of diffused light through the alleyways, enough to light the space.
This is for the let's say for arts and decorative arts. So you have filters and you have musharabiers. I'm talking about a wider aspect, which is how the architecture was conceived. We talked about urbanism, but also about architecture itself. It's related to religion and culture. We have houses, for example, that are very similar from the outside, not even one opening for the outside, which is very weird. But the good thing about it, that it's very open inside. And you have patios, you have fountains, you have ventilation and shield. So it's controversial. Can we say that? Comparing to the European method to, for example, for Italian architecture, when you have opening, symmetrical, you have. Am I right?
You're right, but I'm finding this a very interesting and fascinating conversation. Because
absolutely, that's what
when
this
you
is about.
when you talk about cities, so in what fascinates me in terms of lighting, it's going back to the origins of man-made light, which is not man-made. We tamed fire.
Yep.
And one of the things that I find really interesting, it's something that I've become aware, spending a bit more time closer to the equator. I was born in the middle of Italy. I spent most of my life in Northern Europe, where we have a predilection for slightly warmer light. The closer I get to the equator, you have a predilection for brighter light. And at one point, for about 10 seconds, it puzzled me. I thought, it's bloody obvious. It's to do with the relationship
way the
of the sun and the earth and the way we have evolved, and that has an aesthetic impact. But the really interesting thing is that at night we had the exact same light source regardless of where you were, which was a very warm, flickering source of light.
What do you see, Ryan, in the way master plans are being laid out in cities in North Africa, the use of artificial light in these spaces? What has been your experience in this regard?
Well, first to talk about master plans, you have to have master plans.
Good point. Well said.
So for us, it's not the case, but it's not treated uniformly. It is only animated areas, which are the city center, where the modern city is located, and the other part of the city, because obviously we are in an era where we are dealing with traditional and modern.
That's right.
So we are trying to make modern aspect of our cities to show more, so we can have a more European life and to welcome people.
Create a brief. The first stage of what we do is we do some research on the client. And if you work with the client, it's easy. You know what they want. And you write them a brief and a program. And you make it really obvious. And you can do this nowadays with technology. It's becoming easier, whether you use a video or you do a storyboard. And I'm interested in storyboards because I think it's about how do you tell a story.
How do you communicate that design?
Any design process. And you then have a meeting, workshop, where you involve the client. And doing that kind of process, you're transferring that knowledge, you're transferring that information. And success is when the client starts to speak about those ideas as if they were their ideas. And as a designer, please don't argue with that. If your client starts to tell you that it's their ideas, you have success. You have moved to the next stage where you can then actually start doing things. But you then have this thing that is the place where you say, well, this is what we discussed. You know, and it makes for a better relationship. And it gives you the possibility of actually steering. And this is a bit distasteful. Good designers tend to be quite good manipulators in a positive way.